You may remember this tweet earlier this year. NBA All-Star 2026 is in Los Angeles, California. The 75th annual NBA All-Star Game will be played on Sunday, February 15th, at the Intuit Dome, the new home of the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, that is obviously earlier this year as we looked ahead to the All-Star Game on Yahoo Sports Daily. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. Why are we talking about that now? Well, are we sure that game is going to be played at the Intuit Dome? Look, we all understand that the Clippers investigation is going to be a long one. And I talked to a couple of people that I think are pretty well sourced across the NBA. And one thing that was stressed to me yesterday, Caroline, is that there will be no fast resolution to any of this. So however it's resolved, it's going to take time. But when you start to look at the controversy around the Clippers, Kawhi, and the possible circumvention of the salary cap as we continue to get more and more information, I guess my question is, how confident are we that the All-Star game is actually going to be in LA at the Intuit Dome? Because there is precedent. Remember, with only a few months, the league moved the All-Star game out of Charlotte over to New Orleans over what was then called the bathroom bill in 2016-17. So, we talk about that was over a 7-month period, I should say. We got about 5 months here. But there is another place in LA that this game can be played. Like, as much as this hurts Clippers fans to hear, it is easy to keep this game in Los Angeles and simply play it at crypto. Play it at the home of the Lakers instead of the home of the Clippers. It doesn't require any change in travel. It doesn't require any modification in what teams are expecting to do. There's no extra expense to all of it. You just move it across town. So if I'm the NBA, I'm certainly looking, even if they're just still investigating, why not move it from the Intuit Dome?
Because it would feel like a big, fat middle finger to the Clippers, to Steve Ballmer, to Clipper fans everywhere. To not just move the All-Star game, but to bring it to crypto. Like that is arch nemesis number one, the Los Angeles Lakers. So I think that's why that is why you wouldn't do it, is because you might feel like it is so disrespectful to this Clippers franchise. But you could also put that thing flip down and flip it and reverse it and say, well, it is so disrespectful of Steve Ballmer and the Clippers organization to commit one of the biggest no-nos in the NBA, and that is cap circumnavigation, which is exactly what Steve Ballmer and the Clippers are being investigated for. I do agree with you, though, that if this investigation is still ongoing, look, I don't really know if I need to do more investigation on my part. Pablo Torre has done some fabulous investigating and some fabulous reporting, that if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And it looks a whole heck of a lot like a duck based off of what we know right now. But I do understand that the NBA has a much higher threshold than I do, at least in the court of public opinion. So if this investigation is still ongoing by the time All-Star rolls around, or over the next coming months while we're still in a window where you can make some changes and some logistical adjustments to the All-Star game, I think you have to move it. Even if the investigation is still ongoing, even if there is a shred of doubt in anyone's minds that Steve Ballmer and the Clippers are guilty or not, I still think you have to move it, because I think it's a bad look if you reward essentially this organization with an All-Star game in their arena while they're investigated for committing a big fat no-no.
Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in moving it if you're still investigating, because you can always give them a future All-Star game to make up for it. You
Move it
can do it
back.
next year. It's not a big deal on that. To me, look, and you're right, there's a lot of investigation left to happen. If they have in fact worked their way around the salary cap, then there are three things that have to happen. Number one, the NBA needs to be wildly transparent about everything that they're investigating, everything they've found, and exactly how they get to the conclusion they get to. Whatever that conclusion may be, they need to be wildly transparent about the investigation, because guess what? Nobody trusts the NBA. That's just a fact. Like we as a collective society, because of the actions of prior referees, everybody believes that the refs are fixed in the NBA, right? Like, because we keep busting players that are gambling, people believe that outcomes are fixed. If you don't do anything about this transparently, then the public opinion will never trust you. So, number one, you must be transparent. Number two, I believe that the NBA should force Steve Ballmer to sell the Clippers if he's in fact circumvented the cap this way. And number three, I believe that they should void the contract of Kawhi Leonard, and he should be suspended for at least a season. He is part of this. And I know there's a collective bargaining agreement. There is all sorts of legal loopholes you got to jump through. But the fact is, at the very least, a representative of Kawhi has been part of a plan, it looks like, to circumvent the salary cap system. If that is in fact the case, their investigation finds it, then you can't just punish the league. I think you also have to punish the player. He knows what the hell he's doing, and he's part of a collective bargaining agreement that says, hey, I will follow the rules. I think the only way that you stop every other team from starting their own shell companies and starting to just run money through wherever you want is if you punish the owner, you punish the team, you punish the player. You have to punish everybody. And I don't just mean money. Money means nothing to Steve Ballmer. It has to be far bigger than money. It has to be the sort of thing that keeps him up at night for years because he cannot believe this happened to him. If you do anything short of that, he'll continue to do whatever the hell he wants to, and other owners will follow suit. So I say make him sell the team, void the contract for Kawhi, suspend Kawhi for at least a year, and move the All-Star game. That is the sort of thing that says, hey, not on my watch. You're never going to work around these systems that your other owners have voted on, that other players in the union have voted on. Everybody else followed the rules. You simply can't. We are going to come down with the thunder of the gods.
I do understand that the NBA is not a court of law in the United States. That the preponderance of evidence in the NBA is probably different than in a court of law if you had a jury. I understand that. But it is pretty obvious to me, and it is pretty obvious, I think, to you, Fitz, and I think it's pretty obvious to a lot of sports fans, that this is what Steve Ballmer did. That Steve Ballmer created this funky faux fantasy company in order to pay Kawhi Leonard and to circumvent the NBA salary cap. It is pretty clear. It is pretty obvious. Do we have a direct wire transfer from Steve Ballmer to Kawhi Leonard? No, we don't, but we have something pretty close to that. So it's pretty obvious to me what the Clippers did. If the NBA feels like they need a direct wire transfer, more clear and more obvious evidence, I think you're kind of making a mockery of yourself as a league, because that's sending a message to every other owner in the league that, hey, if you just cover your steps like a little bit and there's not a direct, piece of evidence from owner to player, then you're good. You're Gucci. Like, you can pay anybody however you want. Not that I think that other owners absolutely will do that, but why wouldn't they? If Steve Ballmer gets away with this, I would. If it's every competitive advantage that you can get. And these are very, very rich people that are trying to find any way to win. So why wouldn't they? So I think forcing him to sell the team feels as close to the death penalty as possible. But if you are Adam Silver and you are the NBA and you say that the cardinal sin in this league is cap circumvention, then why don't you hold anyone who could potentially be guilty of circumventing the cap to the highest standard of punishment in order for Adam Silver to maintain the integrity of the NBA? I think these things like forcing Steve Ballmer to sell the team have to be in question. We have to hold people accountable if you want accountability and if you want integrity in the NBA.
There is, for me, one of the tent poles of society is precedent. And one of the most empowering things and dangerous things in society is precedent. Now, I don't care if we're talking about sports or non-sports. Every time something is done, it creates a precedent. And then what do we do moving forward? Which is why, look at what we're all talking about right now. We go back to the Timberwolves and their work with Joe Smith, and we say, well, there's precedent. 5 first-round draft picks, that's precedent. This is a precedent-setting moment. If you tell billionaires, and these franchises are with billions, if you tell billionaires that there's a way to do this and it's going to cost you a few years first-round picks, but you can go out and get the best free agent in the world, perfect. There is a moment for me where you have to look at the precedent, no different than when corporations particularly do taxes. All right, the minute they find out, oh, well, this company can now write this off, we're all going to write this off. Hey, we can cut this expense, we're all going to cut this expense. If you tell a bunch of billionaires what they can do, they are going to do it, and it's going to be absolutely epic